my hands across the Shadowlands. Has not taken by any man. Roads not crossed by any means. The sun falls from cool sky. Last gray fingers of twilight echo through the clouds. In Shadowland, there are no toys. In Shadowland, there is no playtime. In Shadowland, there is no independent thought. In Shadowland, the final frame of twilight casts its shadow across the meadow. Where am I?
Poor little playboy. Ashamed of your ways, yeah. Nowhere to go. No one to run to. No one to run to. No one to run to.
All right, that was a song called Shadowland from an album called Shadowland, Here Lies Man by my dad, who's in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, Tony Garone. And then we also have John Sergio, who to my left, I think. Yeah, I'm looking at the screen. John Sergio played some various instruments on this album and was part of the writing process of the album. And then down below me on the screen, here is William Brown, and here is Casey the drummer. And Casey has played a lot of stuff. They're in Casey's studio, but William has done, I think, what do you call it, the lion's share of the work on this album, with
Production.
mixing,
Yeah.
production,
Everything.
arranging,
And
everything.
great guitar parts. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. So I'll let you guys take it from here because this album has decades of history, and
Mhm.
I don't. One of you, I guess, Dad. Why don't you take it from here?
Okay. The reason we have everybody here with me, and first of all, thank you for having us, for interviewing us. It's really, really cool. Thank you very much, Anthony. And the reason I have these folks here is because I couldn't have done it without them. They're indispensable in terms of, what Shadowland was back in 1988, released it on cassette. I bought it from eBay. The guy on eBay had it. Really interesting.
What?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Somebody on eBay was selling it. Buying back your own music is quite an experience. It's humbling. But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
that's a great
that-
way to lose money, I think.
yeah,
Mm.
pretty much story of my life in terms of that. So anyway, so back in 1988, I had this idea of a place called Shadowland. Initially, it was like a like a story, okay? But then William called me in 2014 and he said, "Hey, let's do it again. Let's put Shadowland together because now we have the technology to do it." And I thought to myself, "Oh my God, I couldn't even remember the chords to the song. I had a dream the next night with the chords. The chords were in my dream. I was playing them on the guitar, and when I woke up, I ran to my guitar, and it was correct. It was the weirdest thing. Anyway, so we began the process with a slow, albeit a slow one, because we finally released it in 2025. And in terms of the music, it's all very experimental, a lot of it. I mean, there are some, obviously songs with structure on there, but a lot of it was very experimental. Things like the Rhythm Pilots, where Serge played random chords on a keyboard, and I just, wrote a song around the random chords. And Williams' brilliant guitar work at the end of that thing was a recent addition. We added we added some things. Musically, and I wanted to update the lyrics lyrically as well, because it had evolved as I was kind of getting older and looking back at life. The original inspiration was from the show The Prisoner, and from the 1960s with Patrick McGowan, for those of you familiar with the story. And he said something in an interview, and he said something like, we all carry the village within us, meaning the prisons within us, these mental prisons and it really struck me. And so Shadowland became this story about, their metaphorical characters like Dr. Deadbrain and the Ribbon Pilots, but they are really mental thoughts that come in and control us. Like they put us in prisons, we put ourselves in prisons. And so Shadowland is about defining those prisons. And then the next album, Invisibles, is going to be about recognizing the invisible prisons within us. And anyway, they're kind of, like bookends. So in terms of, like you said, production and things like that, I have to say, William, I don't know what to say, really.
Yeah, well, a few things I'd like to tee up here. First of all, yes, this album is almost 40 years old, and I've heard it my whole life, but I've heard a lot of your music my whole life. And this, to me, there's something special about this album that is different than the others. John, I see you nodding. Do you agree? You have that same sense?
Yeah, different is the word. Different is the word because it's from song to song, and within each song, it's something unexpected shows up. And again, what Bill did with the production, where the voice is coming from different places and different little nuances. And Casey, just listening to that last song, I mean, the sound of the drums is great. It you know, I'm very happy to have been part of this, even a limited part of it, because of how great I think it came out. But yeah, so different is the word.
Well, one thing that stands out about your contribution from what I know, is you used a bit of the stochastic sort of songwriting where you're like rolling a dice or pulling letters out of a hat and then writing music out of it.
Well, yes, the Ribbon Pilots was definitely like that. The Ribbon Pilots, I think, Tony, we started a drum machine and I just played. First off, I don't play keyboards, which is important to know. I can figure out some chords, but I don't play keyboards by any stretch of the imagination. So I was randomly playing parts, trying to do something interesting. Fine. I think we did it on the 4-track reel to
Yeah.
reel deck.
Yeah.
And then like a week later, Tony had added acoustic guitar and vocals to it and actually turned my accidental playings into a actual song. Like he retrofitted a song onto those parts, which was I found amazing. And then when it was redone and Bill learned those parts and remade those parts with the modern recording, it was amazing. And then on the other hand, there's the song Johnny Monkey, where we actually I actually think we tried to write something. I think I remember writing chords out on a paper plate
Yes.
for that song. So again, just writing chords, and then Tony comes in with lyrics that fit perfectly into those chords. So it's collaborative, experimental, all different writing methods and fun, the whole process.
If
Yeah.
I, if I may chime in
Oh, yeah.
concerning one of the songs that I co-wrote with William, the 4 Moons of Shadowland. There, like Serge said, there's a lot of contribution from everybody in here. I mean, William's guitar parts on Shadowland, they define that song as far as I'm concerned. They're just perfect, and they're executed so well. And even in the original recording, in 1988, not to put you on the spot, Bill, but how old were you back in 1988?
Geez, we were 20, how old are we? Geez, 24 years old. 24, yeah, 24, and working on a Tascam TIAC 4-track recorder.
Mhm.
Previously, a couple of years earlier, I didn't even understand what multi-track recording was. It was actually, having heard it through Casey, introduced me to some music that Tony was working on from a band called Winston Churchill, and they were doing Bay of Pigs, it was called, and
Anthony
and
was
it
in
was-
diapers back then.
there was a there was
You want to tell a story, Bill, about Anthony sitting at the top of the steps?
Oh,
well,
That's not what this interview is about, by the way.
I know.
That was coming.
But
It's become that way.
usually we recorded in the living room, and Anthony had to go to bed, so he would watch through the balusters up at the top of the stairs, and until Dad would shoo him away. So I think I think this is a nice full circle to
Well,
be come back to Anthony actually doing the interview, because he grew up listening to us, work on this stuff in the living room. So.
yeah. So for anyone, I know that there are some, it's weird to say, fans of Make Word Music and what I do. I've talked about John Sergio. He introduced me to Steve Vai, and he grew up with Steve and Joe Satriani. He took lessons from Joe and then introduced Steve and Joe. So if there's anyone to blame for these incredible guitarists, it's John. But also, it's so funny that you're such a terrible electric guitar player, and your electric guitar parts are so funny and wild. And then we've got Casey, who has helped with our residence interviews with Homer Flynn. Casey flew to San Francisco and helped me film the first one we did. And then Billy, or William, he's done so much stuff. Like a couple of my favorite songs of my dad's are actually ones that Billy wrote. He's great and a great player. And anyone who's watched our Jethro Tull, like the Passion Play thing and other Jethro Tull related stuff with my dad's old band. So John played bass in that band. Billy played guitar on and off in the band and a lot of the Jethro Tull stuff. And Casey also played on and off drums in that band. So it's these guys here are a big part of my musical formation and background. So it's a different kind of, interview here, but it's hard for me to escape this, like the Shadowland, the feeling of Shadowland as an album. But I listen to a lot of music that gets thrown my way, and legitimately this Shadowland album, um like I've worked with Billy, Casey, Serge, and my dad on several albums: Big Star Way, Gematria. We did the Epic of Gilgamesh,
Ahab.
Ahab,
Ahab.
Moby Dick. So we've done a whole bunch of music together, but I really think like this album. Can you talk about sort of the songwriting process? Because I know a lot of it was just sit down and play, and sometimes the guitar is in a weird tuning and you're just figuring things out. But I just feel
Well,
like that's part of the magic behind all of this. And
well,
Billy and Casey, I'd love to hear more from you on that.
yeah, I mean, there's something romantic about this record to me anyway, because at the time we had just met. I met Tony through Casey. Casey and I were playing in bands, and we were, 20 years old, 22 years old, and growing up and playing with different musicians. And he introduced me to your dad, and we just started kind of collaborating in your living room on this little 4-track. And a lot of the spirit of it was really improvisation, or first take. So there wouldn't be a lot of prep. He would just kind of let you hear it once through, and then we would just kind of hit record and just kind of come up with parts. And so everything kind of really happened on this record organically. It was really kind of a more whatever emotions or whatever parts were elicited by the songs. Tony's brilliant songs on the record. So it would just kind of bring the stuff out, and it was kind of, learning the technology, understanding how multi-track recording worked, and how cool it was. And it made me want to go out and get my own recording device and do it myself, and it inspired a lot of things in me. So this record, all of the songs kind of just, I mean, there's something special to me about them, and I had always wanted to, as the technology grew and we went from analog into digital, and we saw the advent of Pro Tools, and then eventually into today's format, where it's really, it's so easy to use, and it's really not an end in itself. It's a means towards an end. It's means towards making a song great, and you can. So we had all this great music from early in the '80s, and always wanted to bring it up to date and sonically what it could have been, because the songwriting was so brilliant, the songs were so brilliant, and the parts were great that everybody came up with. Just never really had a great, we had to track share on a 1/4-inch tape, at 15 IPS. So it was pretty awesome. So to have it come to fruition and kind of come sonically to life to where it is today was really satisfying for me anyway.
Yeah, Casey, let's hear something from you. What's your take on the album? What are some of your favorite tracks? And maybe we'll listen to one right after that.
Well, I love the whole album. I think it's just a great album. Every song is great. But the way I approach it is pretty simple, actually. I'll get I'll get a basic track from Tony, and then Billy will assign a click to it. And I don't like to, pound it into my head too much. I have a connection with Tony's music. I kind of hear right away what I'm supposed to play, I think. And it usually works out, luckily for me, but I get the bed, and then I get the click, and then me and Billy get together, and I tell him my ideas, like this heavy toms here, something here, I do kind of like that. And then he'll say, yeah, maybe straight here. And we work together to build it. And then when I'm done, I don't like to do like 50 takes of a track, because I get to a point where I'm just going to keep doing the same thing over and over. It's so if Billy says he likes it, we send it to Tony. And if they love it, I'm great with it. But I always listen to it and say, maybe I should have done something different there. I'm a little off the click on that part, but I like a human element too.
Yeah.
But the connection with Tony's music has always been, since I was 16, has always been so true to me. And going back to Serge, I wrote a song called G-Force when I was in college. I was in sight singing class, and I hated sight singing, do, re, mi, whatever. And I wrote these lyrics down on an index card, and I brought them to Tony. He lived a block away from me back in the day. And I brought it over to his studio, and he looks at him and goes, "All right, sit down. We're going to make the song." And I said, "I know I hear a guitar part with a drop D tuning." So I played him the riff, and he wrote the song right in front of me with the vocal melody and everything. We just wrote the whole thing. And he opened up a book with Freud and Jung.
Jung.
Freud and Jung. And he goes, "This is how we're going to open the song." Freud and Jung were, he starts ranting through this book, and then we roll tape. It was just hilarious. But he literally wrote that song. I mean, I had an idea of what the song should be, but he just wrote it basically right there.
Did you play on All Colored Dyes and Dr. Deadbrain?
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, you're talking to me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Why don't you set that one up? Because let's go into those two. They're next after Shadowland, and they're pretty weird tracks that I think people would enjoy.
Okay.
Tell us about them.
All Colored Dyes. I had a friend of mine over. His name was Denville. He's from Jamaica. And do you remember that?
I think so.
Yeah, Denville came over to Box of Armageddon here, and he gave me an idea. He had All Colored Dyes, and he said, "Why don't you do something on that side tom and do like a Jamaican beat type of thing?" Which I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll try." And that's how basically that song came together. And then Billy said, later in the song when it goes, it goes to that straight rock beat, that was Billy's idea. But the beginning of that, you could hear that like kind of timbali thing going on. That was Denville's idea, not mine. So that's how it happened.
All right, well, let's take a listen. And your drums are always so unpredictable and fun. And more trivia fact:
Go through life.
Casey is one of the biggest Residence fans in the world. He's got the most incredible Residence collection up above his head right now. He's in his basement, but on the main floor of the house. So now that you know he's in the basement, I hope someone runs it in the house, a big Residence fan, and just rounds it all up. And I
got my shotgun loaded. So.
All right, let's listen to All Colored Dyes.
When the evening stays forever and the night is day for me, then will I know where I'm destined for all eternity. Here it is, I sit and pray. When will he return? Lost in naked thoughts of wonder, lost in empty Shadowland. All color dies, and to my surprise, all color dies, and to my surprise, all color dies, and to my surprise, all color dies, and to my surprise.
All right, then we're going to do a little Dr. Deadbrain.
This won't hurt a bit.
waiting at the foot of the stairs, with a scalpel twist and a lightning wrist, they'll service you for good. Forget the contents of the bedpan, drain your neck and drain the slop sink. Dr. Deadbrain strikes again, gain. 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 Wheels attached to severed limbs, monitored to a spinal cord. Fish Island becomes your vision. You are now his window to his world. Dr. Deadbrain strikes again, gain. Dr. Deadbrain strikes again, gain. Dr. Deadbrain strikes again, gain. Dr. Deadbrain strikes again, gain.
A camera pans just left and right, but you can do much better. He'll put a fisheye lens in your socket and hand cranks in your sweater. He's got ideas, he's got solutions to remedy the blind. A lens, a blank, a skull, a cable spine.
You become the camera. You become the camera. Doctor, you become the camera. Doctor. Doctor. Doctor.
All right. So another thing that I can't ignore, but I love about this album is just how ridiculous it is. Like the lyrics are just at times so stupid, and the characters are just so ridiculous to the point of idiotic. So this guy, Dr. Deadbrain, kills you or something, drains all the blood from your body, sticks a camera in your eye socket, it turns you into this automaton and uses you to walk around the earth. Is that the case? Is that what this is about?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
The classic story.
Yeah.
What the hell does hand cranks in your sweater mean? What the hell does that mean? Hand cranks?
Well, in order to work a camera, you need hand cranks. You know, the big.
Oh, I got it. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
can't-
But it is a metaphor, in my defense.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
You
I
can't
bet.
dolly without wheels either. Oh, dolly shot.
Is
Dolly, yeah.
is the old sock also a metaphor on this album?
Actually, it is. It's reverting back to things that, seriously, it's reverting back to things that, you know, you go out of your comfort zone, right? You do something, you're out of your comfort zone. I can't do this. You go back to it. Go back to it. It's the old sock. It fits comfortably. Yeah, it actually is. They're all metaphorical.
Okay, Johnny Monkey, Davy Jones.
Well, Davy Jones is my my tribute to David Bowie, because that was his full name. And I've always wanted to, because David Bowie was such a huge influence on this album. It was massive. And so that actually, Johnny Monkey is about, you know, I don't know where he is because I have a different view. About Serge.
He's up above you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find the Johnny Monkey within.
So yeah, there's just so much ridiculousness, and that's another
It's
thing
fun.
that I love about this. The album, it's even violent at times, and I just think like there's not enough people sort of writing ridiculous lyrics about violence, you know, and anger. My friend Robbie Seahag Mangano, I don't know if it's a New Yorker thing. He has an album or a set of songs that's sung in the style of Frankie Valli, but it's all about I'm so angry I'm going to kill you, like, and I'm going to pursue you and hunt you down, and I'm going to murder you, you know. And we all think like that. Well, I don't know, maybe just us disturbed people.
Speak for yourself.
I think just the Garones think
Yeah.
like that. That's the problem.
Yeah, yeah. Well, apparently not, because Robbie, he's got it too. And the cover of the album is Frankie Valli, like holding a bloody axe. Anyway, I love that kind of spirit of ridiculousness in this album. It's so playful and kind of nuts. So can you share a little about the lyrics and a little more about the playfulness of this album?
Yeah, I mean the whole point to recording Shadowland and it even helped. I think came through to today is we had fun. We had fun doing it, and that was the biggest part of it. So I try not to take myself too seriously. So we really had a lot of fun making it. So when I was writing the lyrics, sometimes you write the music first and you write the lyrics. Sometimes you write the lyrics and the music. It's this weird thing that just kind of happens. I don't understand how. But Dr. Deadbrain was definitely a character that I had in mind for Shadowland. He was kind of like the main character, because he's the guy who manipulates all the people in Shadowland by turning them into television because he's so afraid. He's terrified to go outside because it's Shadowland. So he does this to people. He captures them. He does this horrible stuff, and he sends them out. I call them telebeings. So they do his bidding. Like they see what's going on in shadows. He doesn't have to leave. So it's almost like being afraid. There were people that we all do it. We're so afraid to do anything. Fear keeps you in a prison. And so Dr. Deadbrain is effectively someone who's really afraid, but is very manipulative. So I had that in mind when I was writing the lyrics of that. But the majority of the songs, there's a lot of just fun. I mean, the stuff in Shadowland, the song, all that stuff. Paul, little playboy, all that. It definitely has. There's multiple meanings to it in terms of like a psychology of the mind, but is also I had fun with it. So it's kind of like on one level, you can look at it as just like you're saying, ridiculous lyrics, and another level, you can look at it like, oh, wow, that's very, very interesting.
You're
you
singing.
can pick up a pipe and listen to it, or you can
Oh.
have a cigar and listen to it. It depends on what you want to do.
You're singing some really high notes on this album. Like it even what we've already heard. Did that take preparation, or like what is the deal? I can't get that high, and I'm 20 some years younger.
Well, I'm a castrato. I don't know if I've told you that. Just kidding. No,
You're
well,
adopted.
in All Color Dies, it was an instantaneous thing. As I'm doing the vocal, I'm going, wait a minute, and let me see if I can do this. And just through sheer luck, I managed to hit those notes. And then I thought, oh, let me do a harmony, and that kind of thing. So then it just happened like that. But no, thank you. It usually requires several hours of either talking or singing before I can do a vocal track. Because, you have to, especially as you get older, you don't have the control that you used to have on your voice. I mean, if any control at all in terms of me, but it's a thing that it takes a lot of work to keep that control. So the idea is to sing every day, try and keep up with things so you can keep your voice in shape to continue recording this music,
Billy, what's your favorite track on the album?
Favorite track on the record? Probably We Move On, probably the opening track. It started on a sitar. It started when we recorded it originally. It had Chris Camilleri on sitar, and it was like a weird Indian folk song, and it kind of evolved into, we just kept adding to it. Tony did the original track. It usually starts with just his vocal and his acoustic guitar just to define the body of the song, but it kind of each time we send it back to each other, it's you can exchange masters easily, so you can work directly into the same file, and so as it kind of changed, we'd each add something a little more, and then Casey came up with, rhythmically, between the percussion, and started with some djembe and some tom straight kit, and then it kind of morphs into something else. And then, so I like the way it developed. It kind of happened organically and became this long epic piece. And Tony wound up deciding to open the record with it. So, that's probably my favorite production wise, writing, performance wise. It features it shows everybody's kind of a spectrum of talents and abilities. It's a really great cut.
Tell us about the 4 Moons of Shadowland, because that song's pretty nuts. And that's the one we'll close on in a little bit.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that started, originally we had the studio back in the early 2000s. We built the studio in Garden City and started recording there. 4 Moons was just a lick I had on the guitar, and I played a couple of bars of it, and I sent it to your dad, and he wound up adding lyrics. And before long, I mean, we had this great piece, and it sat in an archive for 25 years. We originally did a drum track and added some bass. I did most of the instrumentation myself, and it was just something that your dad and I had written together for whatever. It wasn't, and it wound up going onto in the archives for all these years, and then we kind of resurrected it when we decided to, and it's cool to discover the old track. So kind of brought it up to date with some new guitars, new guitar tones, and new technology, and Tony did this incredible vocal, and what else can you say about it? I mean, yeah, it's great.
Dad, are you going to release the original recordings as well?
I've been thinking about it. I was, just for the fun of it, because I think it'd be fun for people to hear the original version. Really, if I had done a CD, you had suggested to me I should do 2 CDs, make it a double album, one with the original Shadowland and then the new Shadowland, which I think was a really cool idea. But I didn't do any CDs because people don't buy CDs anymore, or at least a lot of people don't. No, and I do want to say one thing before you close, and that is that everybody here gets, I truly appreciate everything that they do. They put a lot of time into this material, specifically William. I mean, he puts in such a tremendous amount of time, and I really appreciate it. That's all I want to say. And each one of these guys gets it. They get the music. They just play. I don't have to say anything. I wouldn't anyway.
Well, I've seen it myself. It's countless hours. I mean, they're working on these things for years, and even investing, like changing their house. Like Casey built a whole drum room to his right.
But that was Billy, not me.
Well, it's your house.
Yeah, I get.
Yeah, I mean, just the two of you guys have made music together for 40, 50 years now, and just all of these guys here on the screen, just they're musicians through and through, just making music their whole lives. Serge, any thoughts before we wrap up?
Nothing that I don't think I've already said. Just again, a fun project. What I liked about recording is Billy mentioned before that Tony would play a song once and then they would put it down. In some cases, that was not the case. In some songs, Tony would say, okay, I've got a new song. I'm going to hit record as you listen to it and play along with it. Right. So what happens is you try to anticipate what's coming up, and then you end up with some happy accidents. And that's one of the things that happened on this album. A lot of it is crafted and written and structured or whatever, but a lot of it is just very experimental, and it's that mix, I think, that makes the whole thing work, because that's where you get things out of left field, and you get some surprises that way.
If I recall correctly, you were playing something and Chris Camilleri was adjusting pedals or moving knobs and whatever, and you had no idea what was happening. Am I misremembering?
Yeah, I think so. Is that Finale or Aftermath or I forget which. Aftermath, yeah. Yeah. So another case where you get what you get, and as you experiment with it. Yeah.
What amazes me is that, Billy, you were able to reproduce nearly all of the ridiculous parts and things that happened by accident, and they don't sound recreated. They still sound authentic. So, I mean, you just did an amazing job with
Thanks.
that. All right,
Yeah.
so Casey, what about you? Any thoughts before we wrap up?
Oh, I'm blessed to be here. Thank you for having us.
Awesome.
And I'm blessed to be part of this project, all of Tony's projects since I was 16. You know, I'm going to write a book someday, and it'll be probably this thick. You know, the stuff we went through, you know, and all the great stuff we've done. I'm just truly blessed. You know, I hope that's the way. And you know, me and Billy, we have such a great working relationship. Serge, I've known Serge for forever too. So it's a great place to be, really.
Dad, why don't you just wrap up by telling people where they can buy the album and listen to it?
It's the album's available on all streaming services. You can buy the album on Bandcamp if you want to download the album and own it.
What's
You can go
your what's your Bandcamp URL? Do you remember?
No,
Like-
I don't actually. But if you go to the Shadowland website, which is shadowlandhereliesman.com, and the main page, there is a list of different all the different sites that you can click on to get to. It's on Tidal, you know, of course, Spotify, everything. So it's all there. It's all there. And there's also some some kind of fun stuff on that website, and some of the recording photographs of the recording process and things. It's really a lot of fun. And the artist who did the cover, just amazing artist. And there's information on her work. And also I'd like to thank people who weren't mentioned. The Scott Harris, who was our dear friend, who played a lot of keyboards, Dr. Deadbrain specifically, and also Laura Radinsky, who did violin on some stuff too. So thanks to everybody who helped out. Mike McLennan, there's a million people, but thank you very, very much to everyone. And thanks for having us, Anthony. It was really, really cool. So I had so much fun with this.
Cool. So you have two Bandcamp pages, Tony Garone and Tony Garone 1. I'm guessing
Tony Garone 1.
Yeah.
Tony Garone 1.
Guessing you forgot your password or something.
It's a long story, but it's Tony Garone 1 at Bandcamp.com.
Bandcamp. Okay, let's listen to the 4 Moons of Shadow. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Serge.
I was going to say, just to repeat, the website, shadowlandhereliesman.com, on the homepage has a links to all of the locations that you can get it. Bandcamp, Spotify, Amazon, SoundCloud, everything's right there on the homepage.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right, guys, let's listen. Let's wrap with 4 Moons of Shadowland.
Of all the things I love to see, the 4 of these were meant for me.
Cool. Thanks, guys. That's it.
Awesome.